Hey everyone, Dave here, and today we're cooking the world's best biscuits, at least according to Google. On this channel, we try the highest search rated recipes and see if they really are the best in the world. Let's head over to Google and look up world's best recipe and see what we find today. Okay, so this is cool. It looks like the world's best biscuit has a really nice picture. It's got some sort of drizzle on it, so that's gonna be good. I've never tried this recipe, but I have cooked biscuits in the past. This one is Andrew Carmelini's World's Best Biscuits, end of story from Serious Eats, and it's got really nice reviews as well. So I'm actually looking forward to this. Yeah, this should be pretty good. So first, let's get together our ingredients, and we're gonna actually try to cook this. You can cook along with me, or you can wait to see what I think at the end, because I will do a review at the end and let you know if it's worth making. But yeah, let's get started. And I like to reiterate every time I do a video, I am not a professional cook. I'm just a normal guy who likes to cook for his family, and I thought it would be kind of fun to make some videos. So we need salt, obviously. Salt is, you know, always good to have. We're gonna need some, actually I'll just put it over here. I'm just gonna run through these. I pulled these out ahead of time to save some time. Honey, you know, just standard honey. I got the cheap stuff. Call me cheap if you want. Baking soda, and I think baking powder too, yeah. Baking powder. So that's normal. So the biscuits I've made in the past had a lot of baking powder and some baking soda and salt. They never had honey. That must be for that sauce, would be my guess. Unsalted butter is one of the ingredients. Now, I've always used salted butter, but this calls for unsalted. Shortening, another common one if you're doing southern biscuits. That's generally what I use as well. And then we got buttermilk. It's a necessity. It's a staple of any sort of biscuit recipe, in my opinion. And flour, tons of flour, because biscuits are basically just a lot of flour. And then sugar, which I don't know if I've ever put sugar. Maybe I've put sugar in my biscuits. You know what, that's probably for the sauce too. I could look, the computer's right here. Let's see, the honey butter topping. Yeah, so it's got the ingredients separated out. It's got the honey butter topping, has the unsalted butter, the honey, and the salt, and then the biscuits themselves have all the other stuff. So the sugar does go in the biscuits, so that's interesting. Let's see how that turns out. Now what I've noticed, okay, so hold on, I'm looking at the directions here. It looks like it's got the directions for making the honey butter first, which I find kind of strange unless it takes a really long time. I would think you'd make the biscuits and then make the honey butter while the biscuits are cooking. That's generally how I organize my cooking. So I'm just gonna look at the recipe really quick. Yeah, it actually says that you need to keep it warm until you're ready to use it. So if you were to just follow these directions exactly and start off with the honey butter, then you're gonna have to make the honey butter and then find a way to keep it warm until you're done with the biscuit. And if you're not a fast cook, the biscuits might take you an hour or something, and then you'll have the honey butter has hardened up and all that stuff. So I think we're gonna do the honey butter after the biscuits. So we're gonna skip, and I'll do a link to the recipe too if you want to follow along. We're gonna skip down to step 4 and just make the biscuits first, because the biscuits can sit there on the counter for 3 days and then I can eat them. It's fine. They're gonna be good. Well, maybe not 3 days, but at least 30 minutes. All right, so the first step to make the biscuits, preheat the oven to 425. I can also imagine with the honey butter, not everyone would even want to do it, so might as well start off with the biscuits in case you just want to see how to make the biscuits. You can bail after the biscuits are done. Okay, so in a large bowl, stir together flour, baking soda, baking powder, salt, and sugar. If you don't have a sifter, you can use a whisk. Yeah, I've never used a sifter. I've seen people do that, but I've never done it. I wonder if this is large enough. We'll see. Okay, we can use a whisk. So I guess you can sift it together if you want. I'm not going to. I'm just gonna pour it in there and then I'll stir it up after. So for the flour, it says we need 4.5 cups. So I've got my 1 cup measurement thingy here, and I'm just gonna fill that up 4 times, and then I'll get a 1/2 cup and do the 1/2 cup. I did see some of your guys' comments, and I thought it was funny. One of the comments I received a few times is that they were impressed I followed the recipe because a lot of people don't. And I've noticed that too, and I think a lot of the people that don't follow the recipe are like just 2, 3, 4. They're like naturally just really good chefs, and I don't think I am. I'm just like a normal guy who cooks, and the only way I can make sure it's gonna taste good is follow the recipe. And a half. Okay, so I just put 4.5 cups of flour into the bowl, and now we're gonna add our other dry ingredients. All right, so a teaspoon of baking soda. Baking soda is what's next, and so I've got my little teaspoon here. I'm just gonna level off and put in. And then how much baking powder? Usually it's more. A tablespoon plus 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So a lot more baking powder. Oh, here's a secret trick, guys. This is gonna save you a lot of depression and sadness. Maybe not depression. That might be a little overboard. But when you buy your baking powder for biscuits, you need to make sure that it does not have aluminum in it. And I know that's a weird thing, but when you go to the store, I think Callum's like a white one, like a white jar thingy. This is a red one, the Rumford. I've always had pretty, it's probably out of focus, but the Rumford, I've always had really good luck with no aluminum. Just check the ingredients and see if it has like anything that could be translated into aluminum. A lot of times people use fancy big words. But yeah, I'm telling you, like, Okay, what did I say? I should look at this again. I'm gonna mess this up. 2 teaspoons and a table. Okay, so there's my 2 teaspoons and I need a tablespoon. But yeah, I'm telling you, like, if you get the aluminum stuff, your biscuits will taste like metal. Guaranteed. I've done it. Here's the tablespoon. Because this just has so much baking powder in it, biscuits do. So when you have that much concentration of baking powder and there's any trace of metal in it, it becomes really disgusting quite quickly. And I think, like, in a big cake or something, you're probably not gonna notice it, because in a cake you might only use like a teaspoon of baking powder, but this is like over a teaspoon of baking powder, over a tablespoon of baking powder. But anyways, long story short, get the one with no aluminum if you want your biscuits to not be awful. And then it says salt and sugar, and we're gonna do a teaspoon of salt, which is right here. And I'll just pour it over this. Teaspoon of salt, and how much sugar do we need? 2 teaspoons of sugar. A teaspoon of sugar helps the medicine. You guys name that movie? Put it in the comments if you know. I bet you do. It's a classic. 1, 2. All right, so this said to mix it with a whisk, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use our wire whisk here, and we're just gonna mix it up to get it all integrated. And also, I guess the reason I want you to use the whisk is to break up any clumps. So, sorry, words are hard early in the morning. This is a good time to cook biscuits though, which is why I'm doing it right now. It's like, what, 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Figured it was a good time to cook up some biscuits for the family. Now my son is the biscuit connoisseur, so we really should try to convince him to come on camera and try one, but I don't know if he's gonna want to. He's a teenager, so, you know. All right, so what it says next is weird. I've never seen or heard of this before. Well, the first part I have, it says add vegetable shortening, 1 cup, all right, which we can do easy, but the way it says to cut it in is weird. I actually don't like working with shortening. It's so gross on your hands, like, but it's hard to avoid getting it on you when you're making a biscuit. This is a lot of shortening, by the way. a lot of shortening. I mean, this is probably not healthy. I think if you were like, you know, trying to figure out if this was a healthy thing, the answer is gonna be no, but okay, so we've got our 1 cup of shortening here, and we're gonna add it into the mix, like so. Now this next part is weird. It says, using a pastry cutter, which I don't even know what that is, or holding a butter knife in each hand, cut through the shortening and the flour in an X-shaped motion. So like this, I guess, an X-shaped motion. I don't know, what does this do? I'm trying it. X. I don't have the dexterity to do this, but I'm cutting it in an X-shaped motion. Oh wait, let me get it on this close-up cam so you can see how stupid I look. X-shaped motion, cutting the shortening like that. What's this say? It says, until the shortening is mixed in, be careful to break up any large pieces. You should end up with lots of little pebbles. Okay. I mean, this is, I guess, working. It's just weird. Like, okay, so with the other recipes that I've done, I'm gonna just get it centered a little more. The other recipes that I've done of biscuits, I've always just done this part with my fingers. Just use, you know, what better tool is there than your hand? It's got 5 excellent flexible knives on it. But okay, so we're just cutting up the bigger chunks in an X-shaped motion to get the shortening all broken down. The oven's preheated, so that's good. Okay, so I'm inclined to stop doing this because it's not fun. That's a problem I have when cooking, is I don't like doing steps that aren't fun. But I'm gonna keep doing it just until all the biggest chunks are gone. I think it's actually looking pretty well mixed in. It looks kind of like when I do it by hand, so I'm gonna call it almost done. Just try to get any of these big chunks that are left. Cut. Okay, that's good enough for now. So we'll set that aside, because the next step is we need our buttermilk. Are you supposed to shake buttermilk? I don't know. So buttermilk will go in this liquid measuring cup, and I need 2.5 cups worth. Oops, that's the wrong side. 2.5 cups worth of buttermilk. That good? Yeah. I'm fighting hard against my instincts right now. My instincts are to ignore this next step because I think it's insane. I've made like thousands of biscuits using my favorite recipe. I've never tried this recipe. This is what Google says is the best recipe, but it goes against what I've always thought was like one of the cardinal rules of biscuit making, which was squish it and handle it as little as possible, because you want it to be fluffy and loose, sort of. Like you want it to be a nice fluffy biscuit. And what this is telling me to do is basically to manhandle and abuse this stuff for 15 minutes. I think it's gonna make a really overly dense and kind of crummy biscuit. But then again, the reviews are high, so I'm gonna read through this. We're gonna try it, and I'm a little nervous. It says add the buttermilk and mix everything together with your hands. So that's normal, that's what I would expect. But I never actually mix it all together with my hands right away. I started off with the knife, and then I moved to the hands once it starts to get a little bit less soggy. All right, so that's pretty much getting there. All right, I mean, this is just, you're gonna have to understand. Okay, make sure you wash your hands, by the way. I did wash my hands before I started this. But yeah, make sure you wash your hands. This is really sticky, and it says if it's super sticky to add a little flour. How am I gonna add flour right now? Look at my hands. I should have taken out a little flour ahead of time, I think. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just like, wow. All right, we're gonna have to repackage this flour because I'm gonna throw some on the table too. That's a little too much. Okay, so here's way too much flour on the table. Pick up these little pieces I dropped, and we're gonna take just a bit and put it in there on my hands, just so I can. What I'm struggling with right now is this bowl is too small. It's just way too small. This is a struggle. This is too much flour. So we're gonna throw a little flour on here. And I'm gonna cut to this where I dump it on here like so. Because I just don't have enough room to work with it. There we go. Squish that down and just try to integrate it a little bit. And I know there's a little flour on there, but it was just too sticky to work with, so we're just gonna have to make do. Now it's not sticky at all. No, it is. Still sticky. I'm like realizing I'm getting my computer all dirty with flour, which is not great. Okay, so this is how you make biscuits if you're a total slob. Let me get some of this flour away. It's too much flour. All right, so anyways, it said to make it, okay, so what the recipe said was to form a ball, okay? Form a big ball like so. And then it said, okay, anyways, I had to wash my hands. I couldn't even anymore. All right, so it says to roll it out. It says to roll it out into a round, like as in a round shape. There's a lot of dough. So I'm gonna try that, although, I don't know. I've never done it like this before. Like I said, normally I've just like, normally at this point in the biscuit making, like right here, is where I'd cut out my biscuits and say, yeah, these are good, because handle them as little as possible, have them be as fluffy as possible. But this says, fold this into thirds. So thirds, let's say one, that's how I hear that, is thirds like that. Like you're folding a business letter, slap down on the dough hard. Slap! Oop, sorry. Slap, slap, slap. That's what it says. It says slap it. I don't really know what that does. And then roll it out and fold it again. Okay, you just had to give it a little slappy. Give it a little slapperoo. That's from Happy Gilmore. It's a movie. It's a movie about golfing and Adam Sandler. Mostly about Adam Sandler, I guess. It's really just a comedy. You've all heard of it. I don't know why I'm telling you it. All right, so I rolled it out again. Now I bet it says to do the same thing again. Slap the dough down with the palm of your hands. Do this 7 times. It literally says to do this 7 times, which I think is a total waste. But here we go. Here's number 2. See, now my surface isn't as floured anymore because I picked up all the flour. See, this is kind of my concern, is that this whole process is going to really dry out the biscuits, because I'm gonna have to keep putting flour down and on it so I can do this 7 times. Oh wait, slap, 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 slap. That's 2. Oh my gosh. This dough does not like what I'm doing at all. Oh, now it's not even rolling. Now guys, the whole point of this channel is so you can watch me struggle, right? You knew that. Okay, I guess they were here again. Okay. How many times have I done it, guys? 2? Okay, fold it like a business letter, spank it, and roll it out again. Now it's like just getting super long. What am I doing wrong here? Oh my gosh. I don't know if I can keep doing this. I think it's so silly. I don't think that's making any consequential difference in how the biscuits turn out. I really don't. I might quit. I might quit at 3. Slap it again though. I just think there's no point. Let me see what the next step is. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop that. I mean, maybe if you want, I can pretend like I did it 7 times, but I just think it's a total waste of your time and my time to do that, because you don't need your biscuits to be incredibly compacted like that. You don't need to be slapping your dough. I guess I'm gonna use a round baking pan. So it calls for parchment paper on the baking pan. I'm just gonna butter it, same idea. And, all right, anyways, so we're just buttering this baking sheet here so we can put the biscuits on it. And I just realized that my biscuit cutter, I mean, I don't have any sort of fancy biscuit cutter, but I've always used this one that I really liked. It's just like a broken down piece of metal that's really good for cutting these. I don't know where it is. So I'm just gonna use a cup. I've got this glass cup. Everyone has a cup, so I figure anyone can do this. And I'm just gonna make biscuits out of it. Just use the cup and just make some biscuit shaped circles. Like so. And again, I know I was just talking about how I like to follow the recipes exactly. I mean with ingredients. Sometimes if the steps seem really pointless to me, I won't follow them, but I generally always follow the ingredients exactly. Now there is one trick I've noticed though. Every now and then, if you look at the bottom of a recipe on the internet, like if you're like me and you Google all your meals, if you look at the bottom of the recipes, every now and then you're gonna find one that has like a lot of very similar sentiment at the bottom. Like I've seen some that say way too much salt, and then you look and like it's got 500 thumbs up. These are probably too thin, honestly. I feel like I should have maybe gotten it a little thicker, but that's okay. You can have them thin, you just gotta cook them for less time. Whenever I've made a biscuit in the past, it's been a lot thicker than this, but I mean, I've also never beaten the life out of it. I feel like I'm making pancakes. Someone said I should make a pancake, world's best pancake video. That'd be good. I'd be down for that. All right, so I'm just gonna take all this dough, clump it back together, roll it one more time. I'm gonna go a little thicker, but not a ton thicker. There you go. And this will be some nice thicker biscuits, because I'm not sure if I'm gonna like those really thin ones. I would say this is closer to where you wanna be, thickness-wise, guys. Those other ones I think are a little too thin. So if you are making this at home. And then I just rinse and repeat, right? Just push it all back together, make another circle. Probably make one here. I've never used this cup before, so I'm kind of learning as I go. This is a mega thick one. I'll make varying thicknesses. Now, won't that cook them disevenly? Or won't they not be evenly cooked if I have different sizes? The answer is a strong yes on that, but I'm cool with that. I can take some off early. I want to at least have 1 or 2 that I really think are the right size. This last one can be a little tiny baby biscuit. Now, when you are cooking biscuits, it's okay if they touch. You can always, you know, detach them when they're done. So there you go, you got your biscuits on the tray. Now we're gonna put them in the oven for like 10 minutes and set the timer for 10 minutes. I mean, can we talk a minute about how much stupid flour I put on the counter? That is way too much flour. I didn't know what to do because my hands were dirty. So okay, you know, now that we're to this moment of peacefulness, I will say I recommend flouring your surface before you dig your hands into that giant pot of stickiness. Use a bigger bowl than I did because I didn't have room to work, so I had to take it out prematurely. Normally you could leave it in the bowl and work it until it's like easier to handle and then put it out on the already floured surface. That's the order of operations I would use if I did it again, because this was kind of a huge mess the way I did it. Okay, so the oven's about to beep at 10 minutes. I've been cleaning up a little bit in those 10 minutes and getting ready to make the topping. So it says at 10 minutes you open it up and you turn the actual cookie sheet so that you can make sure the biscuits cook evenly on all sides. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Hold on one second. All right, so we're at the halfway point. 10 minutes in, let's take a look. Oh, they look horrible. Yeah, they look pretty terrible. They look like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. But you know, if you wanted to look at some sort of beautiful biscuit right now, you should probably go watch Alton Brown. Not me. But yeah, so we turn the biscuit thing and we do another 10 minutes on the timer. All right, so now we're gonna try to make this honey butter topping. And even though these biscuits aren't looking amazing, mind you, with the other recipe I make, they do look amazing, but that's probably just because I've never practiced this before. Maybe with a little time, I'd get good at this if I tried this more than once. But again, looks don't really matter in biscuit world. All that really matters is how they taste. So these still could be the world's best biscuits, and we're gonna find out. Don't leave, let's figure it out. But first, let's make this honey butter. It says start off with 2 teaspoons of water in a pot, like in a pan. It says I've pre-done that. I'm sorry, 2 tablespoons of water in a pot. So I use my little tablespoon thing and I filled this up with 2 tablespoons of water, and it says bring it to boil. This is gonna take 2 seconds. All right, so we've got our water on the oven boiling. So it says to, once the water boils, slowly mix in whisk in butter, piece by piece. I'm assuming it wants me to cut these into tablespoon pieces. We are gonna use 3 tablespoons of honey as well. I'll bring it over there and we'll measure while we're cooking it. So I'm gonna put that over here. And as far as the salt goes, we need 1/4 teaspoon. So I'll have to get the measuring spoon. Here's my little 1/4 teaspoon. So now we're just gonna go over there and we're gonna combine all these things till we have a shiny liquid. Shiny, well combined liquid. And this will be our drizzle. So this is not boiling yet, but you know what? It's probably because I never turned it on. That's always a problem when you don't turn on things. I am hoping that these really are the world's best biscuits. I'm not super confident, but the picture looked amazing, which is always a good sign. All right, so the water is steaming, not boiling yet, but steaming. So very soon we're gonna add in the butter. All right, so this is boiling. Let's start adding in our butter, 1 piece at a time, and just kind of letting that disappear. As it disappears, we'll add the additional butter. Whew, that's steamy, huh? Some steamy, steamy goodness. I could turn on my little fan here. All right, put in the second one because that one's all melted down. We're just making like a watery and buttery mixture here. It looks pretty good. Wow, it's hot. I wonder if I should turn the heat down a little. It doesn't say to. I might turn it down a hair just because of how much it's like going crazy. All right, so this third one's almost done, and the next thing we gotta add is the honey, and I don't think I took the little protective film off. All right, so let's add the honey. 1, 2. That's a little bit of a heaping tablespoon, but I'm not gonna actually fully drain it, so I think it'll be okay. 3, and that was a really heaping tablespoon, so we'll stop right there. All right, so that's all the honey in there. Integrate that, and then we'll do our 1/4 teaspoon of salt as well. Now it's starting to look like something. Here's our salt, 1/4 teaspoon. And I spilt it everywhere. And now let's mix it up here. Actually, I'm gonna use this whisk. Now I want it to be combined liquid. It kind of is that, so I'm not really entirely sure how far I should let this go. I don't think it's super clear on that front, but it's very bubbly. I would say it's maybe already almost done. I don't want it to harden because I go too long. Let's take a look at it when I feel like we could get it a little thicker maybe. Can you imagine how much it would hurt to just drink this right now? It's like lava. I'm gonna, what should I do? I'm gonna take it off for a second and read the instructions again. So I turned off the heat. I feel like it's done. I don't want to overcook the liquid, so I think we're good. I'm gonna take it off the heat too. And the biscuits have 1 minute left on them. So this is what our sauce looks like now. It's really bubbly. I'm hoping it like settles down here, given a moment. The timer just went off for 20 minutes. And here's what the biscuits look like. They kind of look done. Yeah, they look done. They don't cook perfectly evenly, but they look pretty good. They could maybe even stand a couple more minutes in there, honestly. And there they are, and they honestly don't look that good. I'll be completely honest, like, they just look weird. And I think it's not necessarily the recipe's fault. It might be just my fault for not really understanding what I'm supposed to do. But here they are. So let's pour the drizzle on them. And I guess we're just gonna do it like this, right? Just dump it on there, because that's what it says to do. Look, is that satisfying at least? That is kind of satisfying to watch. I mean, listen, it might taste good, and that's all that really matters when you're cooking. It says to brush it on, so I really should have done it this way, but I didn't read the instructions just then. So let's just brush on the delicious little sugar topping. There's some at the bottom here that I'm just adding as well. I mean, this is definitely not really what I would call breakfast with this much sugar in it. Normally I just put butter on my biscuits, so. All right, well, let's try them. I'm ready. Are you guys ready? I'm ready. Well, let me get a little more on this big giant one. World's best biscuit is about to be consumed by Dave. So here we go, down the hatch. Oh, it's so hot. It's a face melter. Whew. Okay, so that was really hot, but let's talk about it. It's a good biscuit. It is exactly as I feared, though. It's a bit too dense. Like, I don't know, I like a really fluffy and flaky and light biscuit, and these are very dense biscuits. But I know everyone likes different kind of biscuits, and I imagine if I had actually done all 7 times where I folded and smacked it, folded and smacked it, it would just be even more dense than it already is. I could be wrong. I'm not a professional cook. I don't know how the science works. So comment down below and let me know if they would have become more flaky somehow by continuing to do that squishy thing 7 times instead of 3. But the flavor is very good. The sauce is amazing. It's really sweet and good. Overall, the biscuits taste excellent. The consistency is a little off for a southern biscuit to me. Now, you know, I've been making biscuits and eating biscuits in North Carolina for the last 12 years, so I'm kind of like, you know, Bojangles is my biscuit, right? So it's, you know what this reminds me of? A Biscuitville biscuit. If you've ever gone to that fast food chain, that's kind of what this is, like a better Biscuitville biscuit, way better KFC biscuit. It's a good biscuit. I do think it's a good recipe to try. I don't know if I'd do all the craziness with folding it 80 times. I showed you when I would have cut it and cooked it was like that first go around. I would have just cut it right there without doing any of the folding. I think that would have made a flakier biscuit, but this is still very good. As far as out of 10, I would give this like probably an 8. We gotta get Elijah down here. You know what, he's not gonna like it though because of the honey. Maybe we get Ann or Callie to try it. So I generally like my biscuits with normal salted butter. So I'm gonna add some normal salted butter to this last bite and see what I think. Okay, that bite was big. Okay, so here's the final thoughts. I don't think I'd make the honey butter topping again. I just don't think it's necessary. It's super sweet. It's good like on the first bite. I was like, ooh, that's really good. But now that I've had like a whole biscuit with it, I'm like, ugh, too much honey, too much nonsense there. I'm a purist. I think if I was to make these again, I would not make the topping. I'd just make the biscuits. The biscuits on their own with normal butter, great. The honey butter, I think that's what's throwing me off the most now that I've had some more time to think on it. I'll give them an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10 without the honey butter, 8 out of 10 with it. So they're not bad either way, but I just don't think you need the honey butter. I don't think it adds much. Unless you're a honey lover, then, you know, like the bee from the Cheerios, the Honey Nut Cheerios bee, he probably would want the honey on it. So if you're like him, if you're a honey bee, all right, I'm done with that joke. Anyways, thank you guys for watching the world's best biscuit recipe. I'm sorry they don't look more beautiful, but I kind of failed. Make sure you subscribe and like, and look forward to the next video.